to the second type of fear. So we also see this same, you'll see the word fear in the Bible. You just have to look at the context to know, is it talking about dread or is it talking about what we're going to talk about now, which is reverence, honor, and awe? So we see Leviticus 19:3, every one of you shall revere his mother and his father. Now, in some cases, this might be fear and dread, but not in the same way. Let's talk about it. Here, God is not commanding a child to fear their parents in the same way one might fear a violent oppressor. Instead, he's commanding children to recognize the God-given authority and dignity of their parents. Because God appoints parents as his representatives in the home, they are to be regarded with reverence, honor, and awe.
Mm-hmm.
This same reverential sense of fear is also directly applied to God. So we see this in Leviticus 25:17. You shall fear your God, grounding ethical obedience and an awareness of his holy authority. Likewise, we see in 1 Kings 18:3, describing Obadiah as one who feared the Lord greatly, a fear expressed in faithful obedience, moral courage in the midst of a corrupt culture. We also see in Ecclesiastes, this is a great verse to think about, summarizing humanity's purpose as fearing God and keeping his commands. After Solomon told us all the things he got into and everything was vanity, he ends the book by saying the purpose of man is to fear God and keep his commands. Do we not see that in the garden? That instruction
Yes.
there? We're going to talk about Adam in a minute, but this is really summing up what God's instruction for us is. And we could also see that in Jesus's greatest command to love the Lord our God with our mind, soul, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourselves. If we fear God, and notice that command begins with God, not people, which is what usually happens. We reverse the two and we focus on people and forget about God.
Yeah.
So if we're fearing God rightly, we're going to keep his commands to not only love him, but love other people rightly. So then we see in Luke 1:50, God's mercy rests on those who fear him. Now, that doesn't mean you're earning mercy, because you cannot earn mercy. That's not what this is saying. It's
Right.
telling us that the heart of someone who's fearing God has already been given the mercy of God. They've already been given the mercy of God. And this fear, therefore, is not the fear of terror, but an inward disposition that rightly responds to who God is and is joyfully submitted to his authority. As we move through the study, we'll see that the fear of God can include being afraid of him, especially in light of his holiness, justice, and judgment. However, the fear that uniquely marks the true child of God or children of God is a fear characterized by reverence, honor, and awe. And here's kind of the paradox here that might jog your memory. Let's look at James 1 real quick. And it tells us, this is kind of one way to understand this together. Because you're thinking, okay, I have to fear God, be afraid of him in order to be in reverent awe. Yes and no. So we look at James here. It says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet various trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect, complete, lacking nothing. Here's how you see this. Just like you see dread producing in you reverent awe, trials are also producing in you steadfastness that becomes perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. God uses trials to make you into his image. And God is going to use first the dread and terror of who he is to bring out reverent awe in you. Because if you don't fear God in any kind of dread or terror at all, then you're going to see the reverent awe as either a choice, yeah, if I want to do it, or a half-hearted or an outward expression where it's only emotionalism. There's nothing attached to who God is and knowing who he is. And later on in the study, we're going to talk about God as creator, God as father, and all of these different aspects of his character to then help us think rightly about God. So God is going to use the fear of him while he leads us to repentance, we just talked about. That's how glorious is that? That God has used the terrifying understanding of the wages of sin is death to bring about the truth of the gospel. And what did he use to bring about our redemption? Something heinous and horrible in the cross. And out of that, if we look at Hebrews 12 really quick, how Jesus looked at this, he said, um, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despised the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the majesty on high, at the right hand of the throne of God in this translation. So we can see here that out of such a horrible situation in the cross, God brought about such glory that Christ longed for. He saw the outcome of suffering. The same thing as we see the outcome of learning to fear God correctly, awe, wonder, just beholding him and feeling connected to him in rest, which we're going to talk about in a minute, how the gospel does this.